So in here, what questions do you have about the answer? This is an answer. What do you have? Do you understand it all? Great. So now let's try to paraphrase this. Find as many synonyms as you can. You could even change some core ideas. For example, the core idea here is, or core example is war, right? Or connection with people who came before us. You could change this to something else that is relevant to the topic, but you could keep the structure the same. So please. Well, that did not make sense. So you need to make sure you understand what you're saying, right? So is it important to make a connection with the past for people? And well, okay, you don't even have to grab everything from here. You could just use your own ideas. You could start with something simple. I think the main reason is this or that. So. Well, it doesn't seem like you fully understand what you're saying here. We'll practice a bit more right now. Before that, you said people who had do before. Had done what? Had done what before? Okay, so you need to say this then. It doesn't sound good if you just drop it like that. Had done before. All right. So the point here is that maintaining connection with the past helps us improve and not run in circles or go in circles repeating the same mistakes. Yeah? Alright, let's try. So you've got the, let's see, where was it? You've got the useful phrases here, right? Let's see. Well, tell me, when do we use these? So this useful language here, when do we use it? Well, giving examples and basically adding more information to your main point. Now let's see, we've got another model answer. Let's fill in the blanks and then we will practice using this useful language when answering the questions. So why do some people keep unnecessary objects while others don't? Mm-hmm. They'd rather. They'd rather throw. They'd rather throw. And what else? Take a look at these. Doesn't quite make sense, does it? I think. Again, number one. I think it's what? Up to? Doesn't make sense. It's up to what type of person you are. Here, it's from this useful language. It's there's so it's about what type of person you are. Some people really enjoy the sense of sentimental. This makes it sentimental is a noun. Well, no. In this case, it's an adjective. I mean, like a sense of. We need a noun here, and sentimental is an adjective. Sense of connection, you think? Sense of the sense of connection you get from looking at old objects, and this one old objects. Well, let's see. Here we have a pool of answers. It might help you with this. So, what's missing? So we don't have connection here, actually. Even though it fits, right? But it's doesn't really. That's not the right answer. We discussed this last time, by the way, the vocabulary. So what fits here? The sense of nostalgia, right? Remember this from last lesson? the sense of nostalgia they get from looking at sentimental. Yeah, I guess. At sentimental objects. Let me see. Yeah. That's sentimental objects. And number 4. Unnecessary. 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 So for them, unnecessary objects, pronunciation, right? You still need to practice this word. Like, I don't know, you can write it down somewhere for yourself. Practice saying unnecessary. And then unnecessary objects make their house feel cluttered. What is cluttered? Right. Well, like not exactly. It's a lot of with like lots of objects in the room. All right. All right. Next, let's see. Why do some objects increase in value as they grow older and others don't? End up. Millions of objects, you said? No. Antique. Antique objects. Antique objects, right? Antique. We actually don't have antique. Well, which is antique is similar to what? Antique is similar to rare, so it's rare objects, right? Well, either way, but antique. All right. So the main reason. Perhaps the main reason, or I think the main reason is mass-produced object. All right, well, all clear, right? Let me save it for you so you can practice later as well in case you want. Where do we have all these? Where do we have all the, here, got the answers. This is your doc. I highly recommend to study it every time before the lesson. Just at least take a look. It will help you understand. All right, now, well, we have arrived at the end here. We have these, well, the language, and the vocabulary, everything. Let me see. What do we need? I guess we don't really need. This is the same. Yeah, let me organize it for you so you can use this while answering. Like this, perhaps. Because that's what you should. That should be like what should be in your head when you answer, right? Some vocabulary, some expressions for you. Actually, we don't need this. I think it's about. Yeah. Alright, what else? I think, yeah, I've recreated it several times because I had 2 different students at that moment. Let me see. Yeah, I would like you to use this vocabulary as well. So we just don't need this. We'll do it like this. So now you'll have everything you need to answer. It's a little bit, might look like a little bit too much, but actually it's not, right? It's kind of just a few expressions that I really want you to use, especially these. Ideally 2-3 sentences, maybe even 4 sentences per question, right? Right, well, let's begin. Why do some people keep unnecessary objects while others don't? Okay, and why do some objects increase in value as they grow older and others don't? Do you think it's important to maintain a connection with the past? Could you repeat that about unnecessary again? What was it? All right, and what's your most prized possession? Most prized, I mean by that an item that you value or treasure the most. Sorry, what's the problem? Do you understand what I'm asking? So, what's your most valuable possession and why is it so important to you? Hmm? What can you tell me about that item, about that thing? Mm-hmm. Well, I just want you to use more of these words, like try to focus on like nostalgia, connection, I don't know, maybe falling apart. What do you keep? What do you do to keep it from falling apart, and so on, right? A bit more of the vocabulary that we have learned. That's all you need to say, right? Just look at one word, for example, antique, and make a sentence with it, or mass-produced. How does it relate to the question? Make a sentence with it, right? That's you can even go one by one. It's relatively simple. Like most prized possession could be anything. The first thought that comes to mind, and it could be your like web camera, right? You could say it's not very expensive, but it was given to me by my dad on my whatever 15th birthday, and so on and so forth. And it's like one of those mass-produced things, but it still has a sentimental value and helps me maintain connection with my dad by letting me talk to him through it, right? That's one example. So you could just bring any you can talk about any item using all of this vocabulary here. That's why I'm teaching you this. And this topic is not just about these unnecessary or valuable objects. This topic is about objects in general. So this is good to know. All of this vocabulary, everything here is good to know. I feel like we're progressing a little bit too slowly, so we should either have more lessons or you should do way more homework. Like right now, you even told me today you didn't have time to do homework. Then what are we doing here? How can you get better? You want me to help you? I cannot help you if you're not doing homework, if you're not ready to improve at home, if we're having like, well, I don't know, what is it, 2 lessons per week, and we're like barely progressing. There is something for you to think about, but yeah, it's a lot of homework there to do. A lot more than you can, what you're doing now. I'm honest with you, right? Most other teachers would probably say something like, "Oh, good job, you're doing great," but I'm trying to be honest with you and give you time to improve. So your exam is in what, like 6 days, right? in 6 days, and you have very little time. If you want to get a 7.5, well, even a 7, you really need, just go out, talk to more natives if possible. Find them, Hong Kim Lake, so many foreigners there, or go to some meetup with foreigners, or, well, yeah, you can have more lessons with me if possible. Just talk about different topics. Yeah, you need to really immerse yourself into all this. Let's take a look. You said I thinks here. Well, pronunciation very clearly should be what? I think. So pronunciation clearly. I think. Yeah, it's clear. It's such a minor thing, but I put it down here for you to remember. Another thing, very minor, but I mean technically minor, but you keep making the same mistake, so it becomes a bigger issue because the examiner sees, okay, so you don't know how to say this. It's a pretty big deal, So what is it then? It depends on, right? These combinations of sounds. It depends on, and I think it's perhaps because. So the point here is to again connect the sounds. It doesn't matter what comes after, but you still need to connect it at all times. I think it depends on. That way you will never lose those these endings. So let's see, what do we have this endings? Try to speak a little slow and think about how you pronounce words. Connect all endings with the following word. And if there is no following word, like here, you see the ending, right? There's no following word, right? So you just pronounce the ending clearly without the following word, right? You just, for example, I'm emphasizing for you, right? Or start your part 2 answers with, right? So you like emphasize the last sound if there's no next word, and if there are words before, then you can combine all the sounds together, right? Do you know what I mean? All right, all of these combinations of sounds, work on that more. I want, and like today, for example, I know you probably want to sleep or you're tired and all, but if you're having a test coming up in less than a week, you should probably sit down and record yourself speak, answer, I know, 10 more part 3 questions. Just record, then listen to yourself tomorrow and try to fix it, right? So today, just find some, you can Google, right? You can Google part 3 questions. Record yourself answering. Yeah, I could even write it down for you here. How to work at home. You find part 3 questions from recent tests. Then record yourself with Wookaroo.com. Yeah. But you want a 7 in speaking, you told me, right? So that's what so I'm giving you advice on how to get good at speaking. Of course, reading and listening, you get better by doing a lot of that. But speaking is a little trickier because well, you don't speak English normally. So that's why you need to do this. This helps your writing as well because, well, the structures of your answers are, they affect your writing. Let's see, record yourself, then listen to your own recordings, find mistakes and correct them. Well, I would even add this, write down what you hear, like this. This is what we do, how to work at home, how to improve at home. Now I'm doing this for you. I'm listening to you, I'm giving you advice, but this is what you can do at home. Not the best, but I mean, it's not as good as with me, but still very, very good. This is the only thing that truly matters. I want to think. All right, so here we have a phrase to buy time, right? You said this, to buy time, right? So because you don't know what to say, you say, I want to think for a while, right? Did you say this? Well, we don't say that in IELTS. You should say, you could even look up phrases to buy time. There's a lot of them. To give you a few examples, maybe you know actually. Maybe you could fix it yourself. Do you know better alternatives? Well, yeah, some very basic stuff is like, let me think. Well, much better than I want to think for a while. Doesn't make sense. You could say, would you let me think for a while? Maybe something like that, but not I want. Let me think for a while. And for a while, also, you don't have a while. Yeah, let me think for a moment, maybe. A while is actually could be long. A moment is short. Let me think for a moment, for a second. Let me think for a moment. And you can say why. You could say, well, I'm not familiar, right? I am not familiar with this at all. So let me think for a moment, right? Did you say daily furniture? There's no such thing as daily furniture. I don't understand what you mean by daily. You mean like furniture you have in your house? Well, we have, I mean, it's just normal furniture. It's no like daily furniture, no like weekly or daily. What you could say modern, antique furniture, bedroom specific, like office furniture, well, cheap furniture, mass-produced furniture, but not daily. What's wrong with this? Products, right? Precious. 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 Precious, right? Popular for most people. Popular among most people. But better not to say this at all. Popular already means that. It's like popular among most people, like saying it twice. So what's the point? Popular means people like this. Population likes this, right? So people like this, and they need to say this. Just popular. They, and then you said something they, something they, whatever was it, like objects are are not as valuable, and then you say it costs cheaper. So you should maintain, right? If you say they, should be they, right? Should be they cost, not it. Yeah? So maintain this like cohesion. If you mention they, you cannot switch to it suddenly. It still have to be they. Then long pauses in general, like learn more phrases to buy time. Like here, right? I've given you a few examples. There are a lot of them. You should look them up. Practice, like when recording yourself. Practice. Imagine like you are talking to an examiner and you learn to say these phrases out loud. Yeah. Unnecessary. Look at the pronunciation of this the whole word, right? Practice that, or just don't use it because it doesn't sound good. And then you said the atmosphere is very cozy at that time. When talking about past, what is wrong here? So atmosphere, just relax and try to speak right. Relax and try to speak slower. The atmosphere was very cozy at that time. Now, well, let's see. What else? yeah, you have all of this here. Well, we could maybe grab another topic real quick here. So you're aiming, well, let's go with 6. Something here, part 3, social media, very common topic. Have we talked about this? We haven't covered social media yet. So, well, let's see. Do we have questions here? Well, let me just ask you, without showing you any vocabulary, what are the negative impacts of social media? Ben. Okay. So immediately there are several issues, which is fine for something like maybe 6, but for 7 you need to try a little harder to avoid that. So just for example, we take this question here, and then we have some comments for you. So you said the first things appeared in my mind. What's wrong? First thing that appeared in my mind was, because appeared, you said, right? Should be was. First thing. So when I heard this question, the first thing that appeared in my mind. But perhaps it's better to use present simple. The first thing, like when thinking about this, the first thing that springs to mind, right? So thinking about this, the first thing that springs to mind is, so present simple is probably better in this case because it's not part 2, it's part 3. Then let me think for a while. Yeah, don't say this. Use other phrases to buy time, like for a while. Don't say for a while, especially, right? The while is not good. Let me think for a moment. Or what would be a good one here? You could say there are. You could keep saying things like there are like many, or well, no, I guess that's kind of yeah, that's subpar. If you want 7.5, you should probably say something like, I'm not very familiar with social media. I don't spend much time on it, or I don't have many. I don't know. I don't have time to spend on social media, so I'm not familiar with it as much. But I've heard this and that. I have heard this or this thing. Practice thinking faster and using these phrases to buy time. Next. Perhaps we have media. The problem of its the problem is that it is addictive, or of its addiction, right? And designed to make people addicted, not addictive, right? Wrong. So they could not get eyes out of it. Doesn't make sense. Can't take their eyes off of it. So you see, you should not use these phrases if you don't know 100% for sure, right? If you don't know how to say them, you should not use these. It's only going to sound funny. Now, what else? There was something else I wanted to talk about. Well, yeah, I guess that's it then. All you need to do is just focus on this and nothing else. Yeah?